here early this morning. I have been working for about, I don't know, about an hour, making a huge mess with this baby. I got some veining on, I got some blue shading, I did a tiny bit of gold modeling, and right now I'm doing my first blush, and I'm using this color, and I'm thinning it out. I'm not using a retardant or an emulsifier. I know that that's kind of the thing, but I think I paint pretty fast, so I'd rather work a little faster than wait a little longer for things to dry. I just don't have patience. And the red I'm using is just primary magenta. It's not the magenta a lot of you are used to seeing. This is very pinky, but it's a red pink. And this is just my first layer of blushing, and this is a very pink face, but I'm hoping to tone that down with all the other layers. And then I think the next round of blushing that I do later when I'm doing details, I will probably muddy that up with a little bit of brown and maybe a creamy beige. But let me show you a leg. Here's a leg. We got just so, the veining is a little darker than I wanted it to be, so I didn't shade much with blue because the blue, just like with Genesis, was staining pretty quick. But, and here's some of the pink blushing. It's going pretty fast. I'm surprised. I mean, this paint is drying quickly. I'm trying to be careful because, if your paint's even a little bit wet and you try to go to the next layer, you risk pulling off the layer behind it. So I'm trying to be really careful about that. But with this doll, it's fantasy, so I have a lot of room to just goof around and experiment. So this sculpt is actually perfect for that. I don't feel stressed out about it. And I get to paint deep. I like to paint deep. And so this kind of feels very satisfying for me. But I'm giving it about, I don't know, about 20 minutes to dry. I could use a blow dryer, but it's early in here and I don't want to wake anybody up. Again, this isn't a tutorial. This isn't me telling you this is how you should do it. You're just watching me experiment and make lots of mistakes. This weekend, we decided we needed to get the heck out of the house and try to think of something to do outdoors, And my youngest son said, I really, really, really want to go to the snow. And where I live, you have to drive about 2 hours to the snow. It's not that far, it's a day trip if you plan it well. And there is like a snow park that has a big sledding hill. Now, I have not been to that snow park since my older kids were little. And what it used to be is this cute little lodge, and they sold hot chocolate and grilled cheese sandwiches, and they had a big fire, and then there was a big snow hill, and the kids had to take the sleds and the inner tubes and climb all the way up the hill and then come down. I mean, they would probably go maybe 3 times, come in, warm up, rest, and then go out and do it again. It was pretty exhausting going up that hill, but it was so much fun. And they didn't regulate it or anything. It was just like, play at your own risk. They provided the hill. It snows heavily there because they're at elevation, and then they have these snow blowers that create lots of soft snow and keep the hill fun. So I hadn't been there in a really long time, and we went, and they had turned the small hill into what they call the baby hill, and they have this little people mover. It's like a conveyor belt. So the kids grab their inner tube and they just stand there, and it conveys them to the top of the hill, and then they come down, and so they can just do it over and over and over again. It's still a bit of a walk. They have to walk around and they have to go up to the conveyor, and then when they get there, they have to walk all the way down to the hill, but it's less tiring, and so they have a lot more fun. And I thought that was super cool. But what they had that they didn't have last time was they made a big giant hill with 4 runs that go down, and they have kind of a tube lift. And so you sit in your tube and they hook it to this thing, and it's kind of like a chairlift, and it brings you all the way up the hill, and then you have to walk a little bit further to go down to the big hill. But so cool. And that's the first thing we did. And my youngest son, fearless little guy, said, let's do it, let's do it. And I wasn't thinking, it didn't look that big from where we were, but when we got up there, it looked a lot bigger. And I was not expecting to be going like 50 or 60 miles per hour down this hill. It scared the living you know what out of me. I was screaming my head off. My son loved it. We all loved it. We had a good time. But this park is pretty popular. I know that. But I assumed that they would be taking some kind of precautions to keep people safe. And they did tell us when I called to find out if they were going to be open, they said, yeah, we're open, but you might want to get here super early so that you can get in. And I took that seriously, so I got there an hour early, and we just sat in the parking lot waiting for them to open. We were like the first car in the parking lot. And because we were the first people in when they opened, you know, we didn't have to stand in a super long line, and it was fun, and there weren't a lot of people. But it did bother me that the staff was not masked at all. There were no hand cleaning stations. There was no social distancing. And when I went to the bathroom, I had to pass the kitchen. And in the kitchen were people frying up French fries and hot dogs. Their menu has gotten bigger. Nobody masked, nobody gloved, nothing. They weren't asking for anybody to have vaccinations. It was just like I'd stepped into a different world. Now, depending on what part of the country you're in, this might be just like the way it is where you live. But where I am here in California, where I live, restrictions are a little tighter than that. A little tighter than that. I mean, we're still spraying shopping carts. You have to wear a mask to go anywhere and go do anything for like museums and any activity that you might want to do, like the zoo and stuff. You have to show an immunization card. I'm just going to put a layer over my blushing. I probably don't need to, but this vinyl started off a little bit on the orangey side. And that pink really brought up a lot of orange. So I'm just trying to tone it down just a little. Yay, air dry paint. Not as scary as I thought. Isn't it funny how you avoid something for so long because it worries you and you realize later you didn't have to worry that whole time? So I think I was talking about us going on this snow trip, and the lodge got so packed. The cars were lined up out of the parking lot all the way down the street, and they were just letting as many people who wanted to come in. They did not care. They weren't counting heads. They weren't doing anything. And at some point, it just got ridiculous. Mostly because, you know, there were people like us that were masked, but there were a lot more people who just didn't care. I mean, it was so weird for me. And I hit this moment where I said, okay, well, we just need to go. This is crazy. Even though we're outdoors, the line is so packed and people are smashing up against each other and not giving anybody any space. And we were in line, and the people in back of us, it was a man and a woman and their kids, and all the kids were sick. All of them. I think two little boys and a little girl, and they were just hacking, coughing, runny noses, hacking, coughing. And the parents didn't seem to mind one way or the other. Nobody was masked in that family. They were just there having a good time, and that's all there was. I guess they assumed we're outside, we're safe. And no, not cool. And even though we were masked and we were vaccinated, I just did not want to be there anymore. And I knew it was going to break my little guy's heart. And my older son said, you know what, I'm about ready to leave. This is getting really stupid. And I said, I'm in agreement. And my youngest son said, yeah, I'm ready to. We didn't even finish out the line. We just put our stuff back and just left. Kind of sucky. And I was bummed because, you know, we had planned that whole day for this outing, and it took a lot of prep. We got up at 5 a.m. We got there an hour early. You know, we had planned a whole day. And on the way home, everybody was just kind of quiet. We were like, oh, God, you know, well, this is the way it is. And we stopped at a general store to get some snacks. Again, the guy in the store, not masked. The people in the store, not masked. Nobody really caring or paying attention to anything. And we got our snacks, and we noticed that there was like a little meadow behind the store that separated the store from what looked like vacation cabins. And it was so pretty and nobody was down there. I said, so let's just have our snacks down there. Let's just go walk down there and find a log to sit on. And it was so cool because the farther we went down, we realized there was like this little, I don't know if it was a river, probably just a really big creek or stream, but it was so pretty. Oh my gosh, it was just breathtaking. And we were gonna go sit down by that little running water and have our snack. And we noticed a hill. And it looked like somebody had made like a little sled run. And I can tell because they had put some moguls so you'd hit some bumps, you know, going down. It was small. It wasn't like, you know, impressive or anything. And we had some saucers in our car, and so we went and got them. And we played on that hill for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. We had so much fun and had a snowball fight, made a snowman, and nobody bothered us, you know, we were just there by ourselves. And it was the best part of the day. We had so much fun. We went home completely exhausted. Good morning. I haven't stepped into a time machine or anything like that. Had a little mishap. I had to strip this whole head. Not the body, not the legs, nothing else. Just the head. I don't know how it happened, but I had one of these, and I'm really nervous right now even putting this over here, full of acetone. And I was getting something off of the shelf and the thing fell off the shelf, the top popped open, acetone got splashed on side of the head, and I panicked and I grabbed a paper towel and tried to pat it off a little bit. And it wasn't like it took off all the paint, but it just made this fuzzy, yucky grossness all over here. I was not into it, and I said, doggone it, now I have to start over. As disappointing as it is, and as bummed out as I am okay with it because I get another shot now. I get to do this again. That's okay. It's okay. Things happen. And usually I keep anything that could destroy vinyl, on a shelf way over there for that reason. And it was just so weird the way it all just kind of happened. It's like one of those slow motion moments where you're going, no, that's all right, it's all right. It's gonna work out okay. So deja vu, you're here with me again. And I haven't been painting a lot this week because I've been sculpting a lot. And it's hard for me to switch gears and change the table and do things differently. I have enough table that I could really just have a sculpting area and a painting area for myself and not have to move things around, but I like my sweet spot right here. I can see what's going on in the backyard, so if my little guy's out there playing, I can keep an eye on him, and the light is pretty here. I am wearing my painting sweatshirt today because I'm going to be doing some outdoor chores today. We have so much stuff on the side of our yard that needs to be organized. It's just constant. I think what I did was during the pandemic, I over purchased things for us to do while we were in lockdown. And now that we aren't so much, well, we sort of are, but my son is back at the gym, and so he's not using any of the weight equipment or anything anymore. He has found an hour where hardly anybody is there, and he just makes it kind of a point to go at that time. But we found that we have a lot of stuff that we either pulled out, bought online, created, that we're just not using, and it's just, it looks terrible. There's no way to store it. We use the larger part of the garage. We had it finished out and turned it into a room. And that's not uncommon where I live because the houses are really small here. And, you know, garage is like a really big space in your house. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest rooms in your house, depending on where you live. And wasting it just storing a car seems silly. So that's been turned into a room, and there's like 1/3 of the garage that has like our washer and dryer and pantry. And then there's a little area that I created a closet, and that I use to store where the roll-up door is. That's where I used to store all my sculpts and all that good stuff. And that sound you hear is a news alert. I missed it. It went by too fast. And you get to hear me go on and on and on about my chores today. It's just going to be all outdoor. My daughter's boyfriend is going to purchase this weight set that we bought. We just have to rent a trailer and drive it out to where he is. And I know better than to put wet paint on top of not quite dry paint, because it'll pull it right off, and I did it anyway. But we're doing okay over here. So this will take a little bit to dry, and then I'll just have to catch up with all the other parts and pieces, which I'll show you in just a second as soon as I'm done here. I have been working on my 20, and they are getting close to being ready to be painted. So I will probably work on this doll a little while longer. Then I'm going to have to switch over to Genesis Heats Up Paint. Actually, I kind of like where this is. I'm not even sure where to go from here. Here's her foot. I think it looks great. And you'll notice it's pretty shiny, but that's okay because I'm going to matte varnish this when I'm done, and it'll tone all that down. But I kind of had this idea of maybe bringing in some blue on her feet. I just don't want it to look like Elsa. You know what I mean? You know how the Elsa dolls from Disney have that really pretty, that pretty blue going up her arms and legs. And I don't want her to look like she's an ice fairy or cold. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But it's a bit pale, but yummy, and I think it toned down that orange. I think it's a good spot. And I'm going to probably shade with a color a little bit darker than this, just a tiny bit darker in some areas that need a little deepening. I'll probably do that later. Now I'm gonna vein up this head, do a little bit of shading, and then be done for the day in here. That was quick, but I know that my gremlin is stirring and I'm gonna need to get him some breakfast. And then we've got lots of chores to do. I hope you all are having a good weekend and good things are happening where you are, and you're all staying safe and healthy, and we'll see you soon.